Call the Apache Junction City Council meeting to order. The prayer will be led by Vice Mayor Wilson and the pledge by Councilmember Waldron.
Heavenly Father, we are gathered together this great evening and are once again enjoying the wonderful weather. We are enjoying the outdoor activities, the beautiful display of the rebirth of the blossoms of the desert, the brilliant yellows of the Palo Verde to the different colors on the cactus. This is a great time to enjoy your creation. We ask for your assistance for our fellow council member, Krista Rizzi, as she is recovering from her surgery this evening. As we are gathered together this evening to conduct city business, we ask for your guidance. We also ask for your protection hands for our firefighters that are actively involved in the fires in our state. We also ask to extend this to our first responders and our military members as they and their families, wherever they are serving throughout the world. Keep them all safe. In the Lord's name, amen.
Amen. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mayor Surtee,
Here.
Vice Mayor Wilson,
Here.
Councilmember Barker,
Here.
Councilmember Evans,
Here.
Councilmember Rizzi. Your Honor, Councilmember Rizzi is ill. She will not be here this evening. Councilmember Struble,
Here.
Councilmember Waldron.
Here.
6 members present. You have a quorum, Your Honor.
Do we have a motion on the consent agenda?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I move that the consent agenda be accepted as presented and that approval be given to resolution number 18-10, a resolution of the mayor and the city council of the city of Apache Junction, Arizona, authorizing the city of Apache Junction to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with South Central Planning and Development Commission for licensing SCPDC software known as My Government Online, and that the award of bid for PW-2017-35 janitorial services be awarded to JB Superior Maintenance Services in the amount of $275,856 for a period of 1 year, with the option to renew for 9 additional one-year periods, and that authorization be given to the mayor to sign the agreement pending approval as to form by the city attorney, and that resolution number 18-16, a resolution of the mayor and the city council of the city of Apache Junction, authorizing the city of Apache Junction to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with Arizona Department of Public Safety for law enforcement services at the University of Phoenix Stadium be approved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Barker,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldron,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wilson,
Yes.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Councilmember Struble,
Yes.
Mayor Surtee.
Yes.
Unanimous, Your Honor.
I have a proclamation on Fair Housing Month, whereas the National Fair Housing Law of 1986, as amended by the Fair Housing Amendments Act of 1988, prohibits discrimination in housing and declares it a national policy to provide within constitutional limits for fair housing in the United States, and whereas the principle of fair housing is not only national law and national policy, but a fundamental human concept and entitlement for all Americans. And whereas April has traditionally been designated as Fair Housing Month in the United States, now therefore I, Jeff Surtee, Mayor of the City of Apache Junction, Arizona, do hereby proclaim April as Fair Housing Month in Apache Junction, and do hereby urge all citizens of this community to comply with the letter and spirit of the Fair Housing Law. Heather, is there anyone here to receive this? Oh. Announcements and current events. Chip?
Yes. I have a couple of them. I'll do the first one. The Superstition Horsemen's Association and P&M Arena went together and worked with Fry's and decided to put in a hitching post at the Fry's facilities. This is on the east side of the Fry's property. There's a picture of the first horse that was tied up to it and the aspect on it. It was an aspect that has gone together with the two different groups to not only put them in, but also to acquire the crushed granite to put in place. And if you'll notice off to the very left side of the picture there, you'll see a big mounting block for those of us that have problems getting up on our wonderful tall horses. Thank you. Also, I and Krista Rizzi and myself attended the Suicide Ripple Effect. And it was an interesting, I'll say presented documentary. The individual that put this on, and it's all about him. He is the only survivor of someone jumping off of the Golden Gate Bridge, which is over a 200-foot fall. And there's been over 2,000 people that have committed suicide off that bridge. And he really went out in the aspect of, one of the things I really got out of it was no one ever asked him how he was doing or how he felt. And you know, it's something that's dear to my heart, and it was something that I enjoyed in the aspect on it. But one of the things is each one of us need to make sure when we see somebody kind of down in the group or down in the doubts to ask them how they're doing and get them to talk. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up, which is kind of personal in the aspect, I made the announcement that on the 7th, there was going to be a wonderful testing of our miniature horse for being a certified horse for my wife. And he did pass. He passed with flying colors. I was very impressed with the animal, the way he did and reacted. So he's now certified in 2 things that he needs to be done, and he did it very good. So we now in the city have a certified horse. If you see him walking around, you know what he will have his vest on.
Do you need the block to stand up on the miniature horse?
No, I don't need the block.
I was wondering about that when you said that.
Well, actually, he visited the area before it was actually set in place, so we didn't tie him up to the hitching post. That's fine.
One thing I'd like to announce, last Wednesday, we had our first Pinal County Youth Forum here over at CAC. It was very well received from the students. I chaperoned 10 students from Imagine Prep, and it was kind of interesting being their short day at school. They were going to miss the last breakout session, and they were so engaged in the topics that we were presenting, which included teen suicide, drug abuse, living in foster care. They were so engaged, they got permission to stay longer and finish the whole forum, which, you know, for a high school and middle school kids to be that engaged in those topics, and the questions they asked, you know, how do I talk to my friend about smoking pot? I don't want him doing that. How can and what can I say that'll make a difference? And learning that they can only really protect themselves. Truly engaging, and this next one is going to be at Apache Junction Unified School District after school's out on June 8th or June 16th. So all of the kids that were there this last time all want to come back, and they're telling their friends about it as well. This coming Saturday is the big Ladybug Festival and the last farmer's market for the season. So that's always a huge, well-attended event, and hopefully you can make it out.
Catch a ladybug.
10,000 ladybugs. It's a lot of ladybugs.
Nope.
Okay, well, tonight we're going to be, we're going to continue with honoring the student councils of the schools and Apache Junction. And so tonight we are honored to have the student council from Desert Vista here tonight. As you can see, all the kids in the audience probably bring the average age of the audience way down, considering what we usually have here. But if we can have the officers of Desert Vista come up first, that they are President Tiffany Hutchison, Vice President Lola Wyatt, Treasurer I messed this one up, Ayana Wilson, Secretary Isabel Montoya, and Historian Alea Berwick. And they're going to talk a little bit about what their accomplishments are for the year, and then when they're done, we'll bring the rest of the representatives of the Desert Vista Student Council to come up and have a picture with Mayor Surdy.
Okay, who's going to speak? Okay, you want to just use this mic right here, or you want to go up to the podium?
Hello, Mr. President and council members. I am Tiffany Hutchison, Desert Vista Student Council President. And this is Sierra Anderson, Desert Vista one of Desert Vista Student Council representatives. And one of the accomplishments Desert Vista Student Council has made throughout the year is our cereal box drive in November. Here's Sierra Anderson to tell more about that.
During our cereal box drive, we raised over 200 boxes of cereal. That is the most cereal boxes raised in the history of our district. These boxes were then able to go to families in need. Rather than each family only being able to get one box of cereal, they were able to get 2 or 3 boxes.
Hello, Mr. Mayor and council members. I am Lola Wyatt, Desert Vista Student Council Vice President. This is Erilyn Brennan, Desert Vista Student Council Representative, and Isabella Montoya, Desert Vista Student Council Secretary. Another one of our very proud accomplishments was our project pencil sales.
Our Desert Vista Student Council sold donated pencils from Project Help to our Desert Vista students. We are proud to let you know that we raised $644. Our hope is to raise additional money at our school carnival to reach our goal of $1,000.
This money will be donated to CAFA, and this a domestic violence organization. Pause for Life, an organization that rescues and trains animals for service, and our own school library to purchase much-needed books for the students to read. Thank you so much for all of you inviting us here. It was a pleasure for all of us to come. Thank you.
Do you guys want to have pictures?
Yeah, come on back up.
Come on back up.
Yeah. Any of the other students come up too.
Any other Desert
Yeah.
Vistas want to come up? You sure can.
We are outnumbered
Yeah.
by a lot.
We should,
Oh, my God.
should have a fundraiser tonight.
Yeah.
Don't let anybody leave.
I know a Pat Smith. I know it's the same one. She was an educator, though.
Thank you.
So then our second school that we have tonight is from Peralta Trail Elementary. And we have, well, I'm not sure if they all showed up, but we have, their president is Benjamin Martinez, vice president Amelia Reinhardt, secretary Kaylin Vasquez, and historian Brooke Neese. And y'all can come up and tell us what you're all doing.
You guys going to give a speech too? Oh.
First of all, thank you so much for inviting us. I am Melissa Martinez. I teach 4th grade at Peralta. This is my 3rd year doing student council, and it's honestly the best group that I've ever worked with. They're the most hardest working individuals, and they honestly are the future of our world. Our biggest accomplishments this year is we raised over $300 to send to a school in Texas, a school that was affected by Hurricane Harvey. We sent over $300 worth of supplies so that they could have supplies because the school was devastated. We've also participated on our community STEAM nights. They help run, set up, pass out charms, greet community members. And then the last thing as we started this week is we unfortunately have a student who is in need of a bone marrow transplant. So we are selling kindness bracelets so that we can send the proceeds to his family because he's been sick for quite a while. So once again, thank you so much for inviting us. And if you, sorry.
Do you want to donate?
Do we want to get a picture here too? Bring them up.
Okay.
Come on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
That's a paparazzi.
Once again, while they're walking back, just appreciate everything that the kids do for our community and the leadership that you're showing and the perseverance and whatever all you're doing for the kids of your schools. I know I'm working with some of the kids in a group and they really have a heart for what they're doing and serving, and that's what we're looking for in our future leaders.
Okay, I have one announcement. This Saturday, the American Legion Post 27 is having the Legion of the Silver Rose ceremony, and this is open to the public. It starts at 12 o'clock. They're going to meet at the Veterans Gazebo, and there's going to be a motorcade that will then go to the post, which is on Meridian, and there's going to be some ceremonies, and it's over there. And it's regarding Agent Orange, and that's still with us, and almost everybody probably knows somebody that was affected by it. I know several people that were. So if you're not doing anything mid-Saturday, then come on over there, and it's a good chance to see the Legion. You can't always go in there, but it's open to the public, so it's a very worthwhile event. So, City Manager's report.
Thank you, Your Honor. Bryant Powell, City Manager. We're super thrilled to have here with us our future. They are now Bobcats and Mustangs, if I've got it right. I grew up with raised 3 Bobcats of my own, and I love both of these schools, and so glad that they're here with us and future leaders, and so impressed with their preparation tonight. Mayor and Council, I'm very happy also to have your support as we move forward with our planning software and our development services efforts with the South Central Planning Development Corporation software for our code compliance and our code staff. We're going to hit that real hard, and we're going to make some great use to that upgrade. Technology can really help us be more effective and efficient. And I'm thankful also for the opportunity we have to move forward with this janitorial contract. It is been a work in progress. I think we've got the great set here, and we look forward to being able to have many years of renewal in that effort. I'm happy also to have Matt Busby here in a moment present our monthly financial report. And when Matt is done, we're going to introduce to the community, and we have here with us our Community Development Corporation Board President Dave Richens, former council member of City of Mesa, and now Executive Director of United Food Bank, who will give us an update on the work that's going on in the Community Development Corporation. So Matt, if you can give us that financial update.
Sure. Mayor and council members, Matt Busby, Assistant City Manager. You'll see before you the monthly financial statements for March. On the graph here, we see, and on the tables above, we see we're still doing pretty well, tracking where we think we should be. You'll notice that the red line is just edging out the blue line there. which we don't like to see, but the blue line represents what we understand our accrual might be. It's our best guess. So we're very confident on the expenditure number. We're not so confident on the accrued revenue number, and that has a lot to do with it, as we've mentioned before. Tax collections getting remitted to us from the Arizona Department of Revenue, not in a timely manner. So that's the best way I can put that. But overall, we're happy to see where we're at this standing year to date. And we expect by the end of the year we'll be in the black. The Highway Users Revenue Fund looks much different. You can see we're very happy with those numbers. And lastly, there's nothing out of the ordinary between these tables that we see there, and we're available for any questions if you have any.
No questions, just a continuous comment to our state legislators to get on the Department of Revenue to get us our money that they owe us. We are continuously at least 2 months behind in reimbursement from the sales tax that they mandated they collect for us, that we were doing just fine before they did that. And it puts a hindrance upon us to be able to provide the services that we need to our citizens, because they don't reimburse us the amounts that we that we should be getting.
Thank you. When we're now ready for Dave.
Mayor and Council, it's an honor to come out to Apache Junction tonight and address you about the activities of Apache Junction CDC. Although the organization has been organized for quite a few number of years, it's just been recently re-energized, and a lot of that comes from you guys, and we appreciate the challenge that's been put down to Apache Junction CDC to step up and really embrace community development in this great community that you have here. I want to point out a couple of board members that are here in attendance as well. Tom Pucklin and Jim Dutson are in the audience here, if you raise your hand. And I also want to recognize some of your staff members who've been very supportive. Larry Kirch and Roger Hacker and Heather Patel, who are all present tonight as well, have been great in informing and keeping organized the activities of the CDC. Community development is alive and well in your community. I think it's evidenced by things such as what Council Member or Vice Mayor Wilson pointed out with the hitching post at Fry's. Those little activities are huge in developing the culture and the character of a community. Watching the kids from the school enthusiastically raise funds for people that they've never met in other communities. Those are all great community development activities. The CDC wants to engage the city in a number of ways. We think that Apache Junction CDC can fill a small void in your community when it comes to community development. Sometimes in small towns, it's very difficult to fund community development style activities. The CDC being really in its formative years, even though it's been around for a little while, is starting to learn to walk in this realm. On your screens, you probably see some of the things that we're targeting early on as we learn to navigate community development and what that means in Apache Junction. With some of the targeted junk collections, we did a neighborhood cleanup, it's about 2 months ago or so now, where 22,000 pounds of debris were cleared out of a neighborhood. That has a huge impact on values, on community pride, and helping people just maintain their properties well. So we targeted a few neighborhoods that were also identified through city efforts. So we don't want to duplicate, we want to complement. And so we watch very closely the signals that the mayor and council send to the community, and we play off those signals. Councilmember Evans has been great in engaging us and attending many of our meetings, as have a few of the other council members, and others have turned out for some of the various activities. We want to continue to do more in your community, help out with housing and some of the housing challenges that might be present in your community. We're learning how to do those things and continue to add capacity to the efforts of the CDC. So we think there's an opportunity between a strong partnership between the city of Apache Junction and Apache Junction CDC. That's kind of unique. That's not always the case in all communities, but your culture, the culture of your community, I think prepares that well. We think that the CDC can really be positioned in a way to complement the goals that are set by the mayor and the council for this community and get broad community buy-in through volunteerism. So with that, I mean, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about the CDC.
So is this all done through the board? If there are folks out there that want to help, how can the average citizen help? What can they do? How do you get on the board? How about some of those questions?
Mayor, thank you. That's a great question. I think probably the first person to reach out to, Roger Hacker has been staffing, quote unquote staffing, because there's no professional staff, it's all volunteers. So Roger or Larry at the City of Apache Junction are a good place to start. Councilmember Evans would be a good place to start. And if they have interest, they can talk to them, and we'll come have them to a meeting, and we'll talk about the goals of the CDC and make sure there's a good complementary fit between the two. Trying to target folks that are in the local community. I don't live in Apache Junction, so we're going to build leadership in this community, and this community is going to be led by residents in Apache Junction. So I get the opportunity to kind of mentor and teach that a little bit on the way.
So you don't need to be in the city limits to help? Because I know a lot of folks that live right outside the city want to help on boards and commissions.
Yeah, I don't know if we
Here's
have
an
a bylaw
opportunity where they
that-
can.
So we don't have a bylaw restriction for that, no,
Yeah.
at this time. I think people need to recognize where the CDC is at. Again, it's trying to learn to walk before it runs, trying to knock off a few achievable goals early on, and as the CDC and the city figure out how to fund this entity and build community development capacity, we'll add additional expertise in the board, and eventually you might even get some professional staff in place.
So that was going to be one of my next questions is when can we do some bigger projects? So we're not quite there yet, but if there is something bigger happening, this is the kind of a board that can help. And
Yeah, you bet.
one of
No,
many.
that's a great question. Again, you guys have a unique opportunity as your funds continue to grow, as you grow your tax base, your community development needs are going to grow in your community. So you have an opportunity, as we work with your city manager and with mayor and council, to identify funds that could be set aside for community development. A lot of cities grow that as a department of the city. Some cities might choose to outsource that activity to an organization like Apache Junction CDC. You just need to make sure that that organization is in concert with the goals of the city. So if city funds go that direction, you want to make sure that you're accomplishing your goals with those funds. But again, that's as the city grows and as your tax revenue base grows.
Anyone else have any questions for Dave?
Thanks for coming out.
You bet. Thank you for the support for Apache Junction CDC. Brian, did you have?
Do you want to introduce any of the board that was able to?
Yeah, I did. I introduced Tom Buckland and Jim. Does anybody else show up? Yeah. And then up on the list is a few of the other folks that are serving on the board. And again, roll up your sleeves. We'll have some more activities in the fall, and we'll continue to grow capacity to help improve this great community of Apache Junction.
And I want to give a thank you. I've been speaking right outside the city to some folks and inside the city. And one of the things, they're always suspicious of what's in this for me. And here's yet another example of a board, they're not getting paid for this. This is all volunteer. They just want to give back to the community. And you look at all of our parks and rec, our planning and zoning, and a lot of volunteers in animal control. There's no pay for this. They just do it just to be helping, and that's so awesome. Just like you said, like the kids, they're helping a school in Texas, and I wish more people understood that the more you give, the more you'll get back someday. So I appreciate you.
Very good. Thank you.
Just like the Golden Rule thing that we attended this week.
Your Honor, that concludes my report.
Public hearing for proposed resolution number 18-07, authorizing the submission of fiscal year 2018 seed community development block grant and state special project grant applications. Heather Patel.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Heather Patel with Development Services. I'm here this evening to talk about and hold a public hearing for our fiscal year 2018 CDBG funds, which also includes the state special project funding. We have gone through our required public participation process. This evening is a public hearing, and then the council's to select projects that we're going to move forward with submitting our applications under. Applications will be due August 1st with an anticipated start time in December or January. That would just be for the CDBG. The SSP will likely be next summer. We are required to cover certain items during this public hearing process. So we'll just start with basically the objectives of the CDBG program. It is a HUD program, and they do require that any project that is submitted or completed with CDBG funds must benefit low to moderate income persons, address a slum and blight nature, or address an urgent need. Underneath the low to moderate income person criteria, we could also benefit persons, a limited clientele such as seniors, or an area benefit which would be a neighborhood that is proven to be low to moderate income. It also could be generally a community-wide benefit. However, our community is not determined to be low to moderate income by HUD. So on the screen you'll see the red items are the ones that are most likely the eligible criteria that we could submit an application under. Eligible projects, this is just a handful of ideas. CDBG program is vast with its ability to provide funding for a variety of different things. So I generally like to say, don't ask me what you can do under the CDBG program, but tell me what you need and I'll let you know if it's eligible or not. It's a lot easier. We do list on our website all of the past projects that we have submitted under the CDBG program. Basically, if you just do ajcity.net/CDBG, it will get you to the section of all the CDBG related stuff that you ever wanted or didn't want to know. Right now, our current funding for the CDBG program is about $139,000. This is based out of last year's money. Then we also are eligible to apply for the state special project funding, which is a separate little subset of the CDBG program, and we can ask for up to $300,000 on that. The SSP program basically is a chunk that is taken off of when HUD gives money to the state, they take a chunk of money and set it aside for the state special project program. It is competitive statewide, only with the small cities programs. So any community that's an entitlement like Maricopa County or the city of Phoenix or Pima County would not be eligible for these funds. It's just the small cities programs. And since 2003, we have brought in over $2 million in that funding alone. So I just wanted to point that little extra bit out. We do also have a grievance procedure. This is required that we have on our website, again at /CDBG. This procedure basically gives or outlines the process that anyone in the community can write a complaint to the city to file a complaint about how the process is going with the CDBG program, or not liking a particular project that's selected or whatever, but all of that information is on our website. So we have had a public meeting. We have also spoken with the leadership team, and we were here at the council's work session 2 weeks ago just to share the ideas that have been brought forward in previous meetings, in city plans, and during just public comments. So I want to share what those ideas are now. First one would be our housing rehabilitation program or our emergency repair program. This is basically to benefit persons who are low to moderate income, who own a home and who occupy that home. And there's different criteria under those different programs, both of which are definitely eligible for funding for both CDBG and SSP. But generally speaking, if this was a project that you'd want to go forward with, I would recommend the SSP funding. It's a very competitive process, and this is something that they do like to fund. This public service is sort of like an opening that there has not been a local nonprofit that has stepped forward asking for any funding under this, but it is out there. It's open for any nonprofit to step up, even this evening during the public hearing process, to voice their opinion. Another project that came up was lighting on Phelps. So there is some lighting, CVS, the old Fry's, and a little bit further down, but much further south there's not street lighting or pedestrian lighting. So this project would install pedestrian lighting very similar to what you see here. The only thing with that is that based on HUD's criteria, this would be an area benefit, so we would have to prove that the adjacent neighborhood is low to moderate income. The only way we can do that is through a special income survey. Would essentially be a letter mailed to the property owners asking them to return a survey with their income information. And if we don't get as many as we need returned, then we would have to go out and knock on doors and ask people to fill it out. And if we're determined 51% or more low to moderate income in that neighborhood, then this project would be eligible. Now, I do have up there where it says serving 1,900 people, 56% LMI. That is an entire census tract to which this neighborhood is included in, but we can't use the entire census tract number. Next project is in the Grandview Neighborhood, just to continue on with sidewalk improvements, which also kind of includes some drainage work as well, curb and gutter. So that is an appropriate project. I apologize, I do only have SSP on here, but it's also a very good project for the CDBG funds as well. We could kind of marry them and do both as a project we can get more done. Another thing that came up were community facilities, specifically the senior center kitchen. There is some equipment or things in the kitchen that could at some point need to be replaced. Liz Langenbach with Parks and Rec did indicate that there are some things that maybe could be replaced in 3 to 5 years and some in 10. Now, the only thing I would caution on this is that if we decided to do this, we'd have to use the whole CDBG award for the project, $139,000. And as you can see, this doesn't add up to that. So she did also say that she didn't feel that it was needed at this time. Another idea that was brought up was housing, specifically Section 8. However, that is a Pinal County function, so that's not something that we would do. Economic development, this was sort of a wide, broad recommendation. The only thing with economic development projects under the CDBG program is that whatever you do has got to result in jobs for low to moderate income people. And so our economic development department, although had some great project ideas, none of them specifically resulted in jobs at the end.
Do you mind if we ask questions right now, or do you want to wait till you're finished? On those surveys that are going out, are we going to put in a paragraph explaining why? Because if I get a survey like that, I'm going to say, they don't need to know that, and I'm going to throw it right in the trash. Can we put in there, hey, this is why we need the info, and this is what can happen if you fill it out?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this is pertaining to the lighting on Phelps. That would be the only project that we would need to do a survey on. And the letter would very clearly state the reason for it, what project we're proposing to do, and what we need to get as a result of it, how many surveys and whatnot.
And what is the cutoff / standard for low to moderate income?
Well, I do not have that information in my noggin at this point, but if I'm not mistaken, a household of 2 is somewhere around $42,000-ish, something like that. So, yeah, that's what I'm remembering in my head is about 42 for 2 people.
Thank you.
Okay. The last project that was proposed was transportation, specifically transportation for youth to the multi-generational center. However, Liz Langenbach did state that that was not a needed project at this time. So at this point, we open it up to the community to bring forward any additional ideas for you to consider, and I'll just step aside.
So this is a public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this? So- We need to come to the microphone. And then we'll need your name and address when you get there.
I'm Gina Freyer. I'm a teacher at Desert Vista Elementary School, and my address is 9950 East Lindner Avenue, Mesa, Arizona 85209. So I was listening to that, and I don't know if this applies, but we have aging schools that I don't know if this would consider. We have sidewalks that are crumbling, rusty rebar coming through the sidewalks, falling tiles out of the bathrooms, and I don't know if that would be something that the schools could benefit from.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
George Schroeder, 2444, West Virginia. Having heard everything Ms. Patel said, there is just one, in 33 years, none of my streets got any attention. Now, we'll give kudos. Today, they delivered a truck of the recycled asphalt to continue what I'm doing to improve my street. Now, we got 5 streets flooding. It's ridiculous. 33 years, not one thing has been done to improve our drainage or our streets. Okay, I see all these nice programs that are possible. Money going here, money going there, nothing to my neighborhood. So as a result of my efforts, we have lots more kids on my street now. I got some of the riffraff out. More couples are walking their dogs. They're being human. They're alive, okay? Unfortunately, I still have and will continue to get rid of the drug addicts and the drug dealers that are coming by at all days, hours of the day and night, sleeping in people's yards or sheds. How that's illegal? Somebody's got to tell me. But anyway, so I'm asking Ms. Patel, look at my neighborhood. I'm not being greedy. How long have I been doing this? 4 years now. Nothing. Delaware, I don't consider as one of those streets, because all they're doing is raising it and making it a racetrack. That's all they're doing. So we need monitoring, we need surveys, we need a way to curb that traffic problem. And with more kids, more bicycles, more people walking in my neighborhood, somebody's gonna get hit. Just like the accident that happened at University in Delaware. It's wrong. It's preventable. I'm telling you, it's preventable. We put speed humps. Don't make it so level. Don't make it so easy. Don't make it so attractive to the people that she's talking about with HUD and Title IX. You know what else it says? It says that neighbors who own their homes, keep up their homes, have the right to the knowledge of people
Your
who
Honor,
have.
Point of order. We're way off.
I'm saying.
What is it
HUD
specifically?
and Ms. Patel.
What specifically do you want to add as a suggestion for one of these grants? Be specific in just a couple of words.
Okay, I would say that don't let the grants go to the people just because they're below poverty, just because they can't find somebody to rent to them.
But that's the qualification for the grant.
I know. But there's laws that prevent that from happening. So those are my rights.
So this is not the place for the discussion. You're just going to comment on what we're talking about here, and
Well,
that's all we can do. So,
It was a comment that we have rights to.
and there are 40,000 other people in the city too. Then
Yeah,
we need to.
Good people that keep up their homes and look out for their neighborhood are more important than people who have been incarcerated 2 or 3 times.
Okay, this is just a hearing to hear from you. So, is there anyone else? Hearing and seeing none, I'll close the discussion. Is there any more discussion among ourselves?
Your Honor?
Yes.
First of all, Heather, could you address the school issue? And then my second question is, in the staff report, it shows the construction on Grandview as CDBG and SSP eligible. If that project were listed for both CDBG and SSP, does that increase the chances of the award on the competitive side, or does it make any difference?
Okay, so that question first. It wouldn't necessarily make our application on the competitive one better. It just, it kind of demonstrates our focus and our goal to get that neighborhood completed and do the sidewalks. But we can't necessarily use that as leverage to say, look, we're investing the CDBG money, now, is that good, or give us extra points? And that's not necessarily the case. The school, I gotta be honest, I've never been asked by a school to put money into the school. Generally speaking, we could put funding into our city facilities, and we can put them in nonprofit facilities that provide a public service. I'm just like flashing through my CDBG book, and I don't ever recall even seeing school in there. So to be honest, I don't think it's necessarily eligible. But that being said, if that's something you were really interested in wanting me to look further into, we can certainly postpone the public hearing. I could do some checking on that, and then we can continue it at another time.
Wouldn't that have to meet the low-income standard?
Yes, however, we can show children tend to be like an acceptable limited clientele, so that you generally don't have to show income information on that. Now, another thing that I do question, though, is it a community-wide benefit, or, so that's a lot of things that I would have to really look into. I've never been asked about a school.
So back to Mayor Surtees' question, in the application, if we chose to use both funds for the sidewalks in Grandview, we would put it in both of the applications, that in the SSP that we're applying for the CDBG, and in the CDBG that we're SSP, so that they would see that, even though it wouldn't really have an effect. Well, it wouldn't have an objective effect, but they would see it, so right?
Right. So, like, we have completed First Avenue. We have completed Palo Verde. We are finalizing the design for Grand, Ocotillo, Main, and Saguaro. Our fiscal 17 application to SSP is to do one of those streets. I'm not sure which one it's going to be yet. So if we went ahead and said for 18 we want to continue, then we could say for SSP we would do another street or a portion of it, and for the CDBG. So yeah, it's just basically saying we are continuing on as each application process comes up. But the unfortunate thing is, based on timing, we're going to get a whole grant completed before the next one is even submitted. And then, so it's just a continuing process.
Would this hurt at all in this application or this process if we said to look into about the school activity? Would that be, say, harmful?
No, it's not going to be harmful at all. No. The only thing is, time-wise, is by May 30th, May 30th, I have to have in my letter of intent to the state to say what our project is going to be. So we just have to, like I said, continue this public hearing to the next meeting. And then by then I will have checked it out and thoroughly vetted to see if it was something that we could do. And certainly I would have to talk with the school as well to find out what exactly are their needs.
What I was going to say, it's kind of late in the game to bring that whole other dynamic into it. So maybe next year you can start earlier and look at some of those things, and they can, how are we supposed to know what condition certain facilities are? I mean, they have county and state and the federal to look after that, so.
Okay.
Well, and we also have some sidewalks on some schools would be on BLM land and state land and all of that. So all of that would have to be separated. I know what's the one out there?
Desert Vista.
That's
Yeah.
Desert Vista, yeah. Desert Vista has a sidewalk problem, but it's on so many governmental pieces of land that it's almost impossible to ferret
Yes.
it all out.
Yes, that, it would have to be our land, our right-of-way,
Right.
whatever, in order to
Right.
put anything,
Right.
like a sidewalk on it.
Yeah, it couldn't be inside, I mean, it couldn't be along the school, in the parking lot of the school, probably. It would have to be on the street sidewalks.
Yeah, unless they're, just, like I said, I have to check it out, but unless there was some sort of agreement that would allow us to do that with the school and the city. So yeah, there'd be a lot of varying factors that would allow us to do something like
Yeah,
that.
there's a lot of bureaucracy in that to have to work through in a month.
And then they could be sold.
Yeah, good point.
Yes.
Good point.
Any more discussion? If no more discussion, I'll call for a motion.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I move that resolution number 1807, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Apache Junction, Arizona, authorizing the submission of applications for FY 2018 State Community Development Block Grant Regional Account CDBG for the construction of Grandview Sidewalk for fiscal year 2018, State Special Project SSP funds for the construction of Grandview Sidewalks, and certifying that the application, 1, meets the identified housing and community development needs, and 2, is necessary for the implementation and completion of the activities outlined in the CDBG and SSP applications be approved.
Second?
Roll call.
Councilmember Struble,
Yes.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wilson,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldron,
Yes.
Councilmember Barker.
Yes.
Mayor Surtee,
Yes.
unanimous, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Public hearing for proposed ordinance number 1461 PZ-1-18, a city-initiated request to rezone the properties along Ironwood Drive between Apache Trail and Broadway. And we have some new pages on this. And this intern Danielle Jordan.
Hello, I'm Danielle Jordan, the planning intern for City of Apache Junction. So you guys did get a updated ordinance with some minor revisions. So this is a city-initiated request from B1 General Commercial to B2/PD Old West Commercial by Plan Development. So this is the aerial map. The subject properties are on Ironwood Drive between Apache Trail and Broadway Avenue, and are all zoned B1. Next, we have the vicinity map. This is, like again, I said, the city-initiated rezoning request from B1 to B2/PD for the Ironwood Business Corridor for the purpose of relaxing certain code requirements like setbacks, landscaping, and parking to make future developments easier. So surrounding the subject sites, there's lots of different uses. So to the north, there's commercial lots zone B2. To the east, there's commercial lots zone B1 and a subdivision zoned RS7 and RS7/M. To the south is the VIP Park zoned RVP and a subdivision zoned RS7. And to the west is the former public school property zoned PI and Apache Mobile Home Park zoned RVP. So a little background on the properties. The B1, they're all B1 and they have all small lot sizes that make the application of the B1 zone difficult, making future commercial development and redevelopment will cause hardship and practical difficulties for properties to meet setback, parking, landscape requirements. Additionally, the parcels on the west side of Ironwood Drive are located in the Francis Mitch Business Subdivision and are further hindered with a 12-foot utility easement and 12-foot right-of-way easement. Also, many of the lots have non-conforming issues. Some exceptions to this rezoning, the B2 zone lots at the intersection of Apache Trail and Ironwood Drive and the B1 zone lot at the northeast corner of Broadway Avenue and Ironwood Drive are not part of this rezoning. And VIP Park has a split zoning of B1 and RVP. This rezoning will only affect the B1 zone parts of their properties. So this is that subdivision plat. It was approved in 1960. It's on the west side. And for the purpose of this rezoning, it's all of them except for there is one parcel above it that is not included in that plat. So going on, so there's that 12-foot utility easement on the west rear of the properties, and this picture is showing that 12-foot reserved right-of-way for road improvement. It's reserved, not dedicated, except for 2 parcels have already been dedicated. So that's what that picture is showing. So as far as public input, there was a neighborhood meeting. 6 individuals attended. They had a lot of questions concerning the easement and right-of-way. What was the city trying to achieve, and non-conforming uses and issues. However, the overall tone appeared to be in favor of the rezoning. Additionally, the letters were sent out to property owners within the corridor and 300 feet around the corridor, as well as advertised in the newspaper. Planning and Zoning Commission had a public hearing last Tuesday night. They recommended approval of the staff recommendations by a vote of 7-0. 1 resident did speak at the public hearing in favor of the rezoning. So staff does recommend approval of this rezoning. The rezoning is in compliance with the general plan given the current surrounding mixture of uses and of the land use designated of the general plan. The proposed B2/PD is compatible with the subject properties, and the bulk regulations proposed would provide a better overall fit. The plan development overlay will allow for the current regulations in the B2 zoning district to be relaxed, which fits with the small lot sizes. So next I'll go over the conditions. They have been slightly revised from what was given to you earlier, so you have those in front of you now. So the bulk regulations for B2 Old West Commercial Zoning District found in that section of the code shall be modified to allow for a 5-foot minimum front setback, 5-foot minimum interior side setback, 5-foot minimum street side setback, 5-foot minimum rear setback, and 5-foot minimum front setback for parking. The required 10-foot wide planting strip found in that part of the code shall be reduced to a 5-foot wide planting strip for any new developments or redevelopments. And continuing, the number of parking stalls required in that section of the code shall be reviewed on a case-by-case basis and shall be determined by the zoning administrator, with a reduction allowed on net floor area, which would exclude bathrooms, closets, utility rooms, storage rooms, and similar spaces, and by the following. So 1 2-bicycle stall shall be the equivalent of 1 parking stall, and 2 motorcycle stalls shall be the equivalent of 1 parking stall. Number 4, for any non-conforming lots or structures shall apply. A non-conforming use structure cannot expand beyond the 50% limitation as found in the code. And number 6, all applicable permits shall be applied for and plans shall be designed to current city codes for any structures over 120 square feet, remodels, and new developments. And lastly, all other regulation and city codes within the B2 Old West Commercial Zoning District shall apply. Any questions?
Doesn't look like it.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this item? Hearing and seeing none, I'll close the public forum and back to us for any more discussion. Then I'll call for a motion.
Your Honor,
Yes?
I move that ordinance number 1461 be read by title only and reading the entire ordinance be waived.
Second?
Roll call.
Councilmember Waldron?
Yes.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Councilmember Struble?
Yes.
Councilmember Barker?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wilson?
Yes.
Mayor Surtee?
Yes.
Unanimous. Ordinance number 1461, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Apache Junction, Arizona, amending the Apache Junction, Arizona zoning ordinance by amending the zoning district map, city of Apache Junction, Arizona, changing the zoning district classification for the properties described in rezoning case PZ-1-18, a city-initiated rezoning from general commercial B-1 to Old West Commercial by Plan Development, B-2/PD, repealing any conflicting provisions and providing for severability.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I move that ordinance number 1461 is read by the city clerk be approved and adopted.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Councilmember Barker?
Yes.
Councilmember Waldron?
Yes.
Councilmember Struble?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wilson?
Yes.
Mayor Surtee?
Yes.
Unanimous, Your Honor.
Presentation and discussion on fiscal year 17-18 council work plan, third quarter update. Anna McCray.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. Anna McCray, Assistant to the City Manager. I'm here this evening to provide you with a third quarter update on the fiscal year 2017-18 City Council work plan. The work plan contained 41 projects and initiatives identified by departments early in the fiscal year that may require council interaction throughout the fiscal year. 10 projects were carried over from quarter 2 to quarter 3, and 9 projects were identified for council interaction in quarter 3. I will begin with the second quarter projects, which were carried over to quarter 3. Project number 33, subdivision regulations, and project number 38, the engineering statement of qualifications, have been completed. You had discussion on project number 10, the Central Business District, last night, and slated for possible closure in May. Number 9, the public-private partnerships, has seen the commercial broker agreement finalized and the hotel feasibility study completed. Other projects from quarter 2, including the number 5 city leased property owned by the Bureau of Land Management, and several of the proposed city code updates have morphed into more ongoing or on an as-needed basis. There were 9 projects identified for the third quarter. 4 have been completed and include number 21, the Broadway Avenue Road Maintenance from Meridian Road to Highway 88. Number 22, Southern Avenue Road Maintenance, Winchester to Cortez. The janitorial services contract, which by ESP I knew would be completed this evening. And number 39, the mayoral and council candidate election packets are being finalized, and I've heard they will be released this week. Third quarter projects that will continue include number 4, homelessness efforts, and number 37, solid waste and recycling ordinance, both of which you heard a presentation last night at the work session and are being worked on in conjunction with the ASU School of Sustainability Project Cities. With regards to number 4, the homelessness effort, staff continues ongoing efforts, including attendance at regional meetings, staffing the Chronic Homeless Committee, and the annual point-in-time count. Number 11, the Lost Dutchman's Heights Zoning Bank. Staff has learned through the town of Marana that they do not have a formal arrangement with the State Land Department. And while staff is in continual contact with the state land, they have not heard anything on moving forward or the timeline with the process. Number 23, the energy conservation audit. Instead of contracting with outside assistance on this effort, building maintenance staff will actually conduct this in-house to continue its efforts with maintaining more efficient and reliable HVAC and lighting solutions. Number 29, the liquor license application process and fees. As other taxing and licensing priorities have taken precedence, staff continues to research options used by other municipalities. Looking ahead, 10 projects were identified for possible council interaction in the fourth quarter. These include ongoing continuous efforts throughout the fiscal year. The fourth quarter update will occur after the fiscal year concludes in either July or August. And with that, I will take any questions.
Any questions?
Quick.
Good report.
Quick.
Start over here with Jeff and move this way.
So on, on number, was it 19, where we're gonna, the box culvert down on Baseline, I'm assuming they're doing that to widen the road? Is that, I mean, probably for safety reasons, but are they going to widen the road at the same time?
I presume they would. I'm not sure if Mike Weaver, our Public Works Director, is in attendance that may be able to answer that. Can definitely find out that information for you.
I'm sure they are. I can't imagine them putting another one in there, and because if we're gonna be widening the road and making it more passable and everything, to put in another culvert with bringing the traffic back down together and everying.
Yeah, we'll double check with him.
That'd be kind of silly.
Out to the
That'd be kind of silly, but, you know, we're talking about the state there, so. Then there was one other one. That's all I had. She answered the other one.
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Council direction to staff on the concept of dedicating a percentage of future permit fees to be set aside and used for acquiring community art as discussed at the April 2nd council work session. Bryant?
Your Honor, this was an item that you all had asked us to do a little bit of research on. We've provided to you some information on the town of Oro Valley. The Oro Valley has a permit within their city ordinance and says that for the building permit, 1% of that total amount gets set aside for arts. This is, in my mind, a very public policy type of a discussion. And from our standpoint, we seek further guidance on whether or not you want us to even, you have your quarterly annual work plan, and this would be something we would add to that.
Did you hear back from the person in Toledo that we got the tip
I reached
on?
out to the, it turns out to be a council member for the city of Toledo, and I did not hear back.
Okay. Well, I think 1%, it sounds so small, but it could actually be very large. And right now, if we're going to do anything like this, it has to come out of the general fund. Is that right? We're getting ready to spend something
That is
down
correct.
in Idaho and
We'd-
the trail.
Development fees would not be used, or a grant. If you were able to get a grant somewhere, you could utilize those dollars.
Is it possible we could put something in temporarily for like a year to see what could pile up, and then just sit back and re-look at it? Maybe 0.5% or even less. Because we don't need a lot. I mean, we're not going to be, covering the town with art. It's just every now and then we have a project like the one at Idaho and the trail. Is that something that?
So this is not an additional fee, but a percentage of the current fee for.
Yes.
Let me
building
clarify. The fee is an additional one.
It is.
For Oro Valley. So let's say.
But I mean, what you guys are thinking here.
I don't.
Is it an additional fee that you're thinking, or a percentage of what is currently charged?
I thought it was a percentage of what's currently charged.
Yeah,
is what
just
I
be
thought.
redirecting a little bit.
So then my question is, what would that have generated over the past year with building permits?
That's what I would like to know also.
So clarification, so we understand. We have fees that we charge developers. Let's just say it's $100. And so 1% would be $1. And so we were just saying, we're still going to collect from that developer $100, but instead of using all of the $100 to do what we want it to do, we're just going to take $1 of it and put it towards art. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
That makes sense to me. I
that's
understand
what we're
right
at.
now.
That's what this is about.
So it's an opportunity cost. That's revenue we won't have that we use towards.
And I
funding
also
staff.
asked that maybe not necessarily art, but perhaps landscaping too, which is, in my mind, art. Made a pretty town.
It seems to me that we just had Larry talk about how they were going to figure out what their fees were on that fee schedule, and they were doing it based on the time that was spent, the equipment that was spent, et cetera. They weren't adding any markup to that as a dealer of something would. It was all based on that. So I don't know that I would be in favor of taking any money out of that, because they've already set it up. It costs us X amount of dollars to do this, and we're charging them that X amount of dollars, and now you want to take a percentage away from that. I don't see that.
Well, from our last discussion, Larry said that the last time we looked at our fees and what we were collecting was like 2008.
Yeah, that's why we had the other presentation where they were telling us how they were going to set up the new fee schedule.
So to add an additional takeaway, we don't know if we're at market yet. You know what I mean? So to take out more funds from the general fund when we have the potential of maybe putting more in, that we would have a better idea. But if you designate it, and I don't know if this is for Joel or not, if you designated it just for art, would there have to be a category that said art, landscaping, or any other visual improvement? You know, because
As you got the permit, you mean, on the permit itself?
yeah,
so that people
because
knew
the one
they were
thing
doing that?
that you said, Joel, that you couldn't charge an additional fee, but since our permit money goes into the general fund, so not necessarily would a developer doesn't know what portion of that permit goes to even our lights in the buildings or water in the buildings. So it's not a fee that they would necessarily know, but I don't even know if our fees are up to date. But if we have I get hung up with, in the past, and when we talked about having an arts commission, remember, and we decided we were going to go with SACA and have their fundraising and acquire new art that way. Mesa used a business community to create their statues and their improvements along Main Street. If we did something like this for city improvement, so that if we had an extra pot to pull from our streets that do flood, you know, I'd like to have it, and I don't, and in that case, don't really see the necessity of a separate pool of money, but we have some serious conditions that exist in our older neighborhoods that we inherited from Pinal County, and we're trying very hard to work on those. And it would be nice to have new development help pay for inferior, older development.
They
or
do through impact fees.
Well,
part of those impact fees do go to roads and that kind of thing.
Right, and I agree with that. So on all of that, we don't even know if our fees are up to date to be able to split off another piece of it. Are we all right? Are we low? Because if they were done in 2008, I mean, that's only 10 years ago. That's a lot of,
Why don't have Larry come up, talk a little bit about the when we're going through the fee change.
Okay, so they're 2006, so not 2008.
Oh, sorry.
So they're, I think that's 9 years out of date. And so again, they're referencing tables that are back in the day as well. So I didn't do hardly any research because it's not in direction to staff yet, but the Oro Valley Ordinance is set up totally different. It is based on the permit valuation. So a permit comes in at $10 million, it's $100,000. Projects under 50,000 are exempt. So you already exempt out small projects. So the ability to pay, if someone can go build a medical office building and it costs $2 million, they would pay $20,000 in an arts fee. They can pay in lieu of, they can provide the art on site, and there's all sorts of things, including the base and the pedestal, whatever, and the art itself counts as putting forth the $20,000. Or they can just say, okay, here's a check, city, you have a committee, you have a process, you figure out where you want your public art. So again, they have, maybe what you could do in the next month is read their ordinance. They don't use siphon off a portion of the permit fee. It is basically they take the valuation of the building, again, maybe a 2006 fee or maybe a 2015 fee, take 1% of that, and then that money goes into a pot.
So was it just
But
commercial, or was it?
Commercial only, no residential. So then it could be a 0.5% or 1%, whatever you want it to be, or don't do it at all. I'm just saying, maybe instructive to read the ordinance as to how they're doing. It's pretty straightforward. First couple pages tells you what's exempt, what it can apply to, how you can pay a fee in lieu of. But essentially, you take the value of the project, and then you take 1% of that.
So
And
that's
then they have
beyond
exemptions.
anything else they pay.
That's over and above everything else they pay, correct.
Yeah.
And then it also applies to, say you do a building expansion, say you build an addition on, say you build Phase 2, it applies to Phase 2, or you add on another, it's 25%. So say you have a 100,000 square foot building, you add another 25,000. If you add 20,000, it doesn't apply. Once you hit 25% expansion, then it applies. So again, I think it's,
And the developers
Yeah.
know it, that it's specific.
it's in the ordinance,
for
yep.
that.
It's all calculated out, and again, they can pay in lieu of, doesn't apply to residential, and there's exemptions for, it doesn't, you know, if you're just repaving your parking lot, it doesn't count. So it's not like nickel and diming you either. It's really for hard construction, new buildings.
But they are assessing an additional fee on that.
It's an additional fee based on the value of the project.
Right.
Mr. Mayor?
And again, they, as a community, they chose to do that. Joel's probably saying I've expanded beyond what I was supposed to talk.
Well, we haven't been directed to staff, by staff, or directed to staff yet, but I will say if you amend any fees, or you increase any fees, and maybe, I don't know how the Attorney General would look at this, but it sounds like an increase, but maybe it's not, and there is a statute that requires a 60-day notice before you actually have the hearing. It has to be on the internet. So I think once you amend that ordinance, you would have to follow that statute, 9-500.16, I believe it is.
Larry, I appreciate you looking into that because you didn't have direction to staff, so you must have done that in your spare time. Yes. So, which is why we don't know what would accumulate since we haven't done direction to staff. It almost seems like we're ahead of our time on this. You know, we are not one of the wealthier cities in the valley, like a Paradise Valley or somebody who gets, you know, when they get a project, they get massive resorts and whatever. It'd be so easy to do that there, which ends up helping the resort anyway, because it makes it someplace you would want to go. So.
What we heard last night when our staff talked to us about one of the voluminous reports that we got from ASU, that one of them was the students were talking about additional way or revamping, I don't know how the words that were used, but revamping or additional ways to generate revenue for the city. I can't remember the exact wording and which one of the 5 things they were talking about. But that might be something that we could throw out there to the students, because they're going to be talking, I think they're going to be starting a new, can we talk about this now too? Anyway, I'm going to. They're going to be starting a new thing, a new program or a new set next fall, I think it is, and that might be something we want to throw at them, is to come up with some revenue generating processes for just something just like this.
Then we could have them check on all the other cities in the country and what are they doing. Yeah.
They can check all the other cities. I love it.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a direction to staff, but that
No.
might be just something
It
to
would be
throw out there
direction to
for-
students. So, yeah, like I said, I think it's a very intriguing idea. I just don't know that we're ready as a city, and we don't want to, jeopardize any growth, positive growth. So,
Well, and I think that's correct in thinking that because we want more commercial development, we don't want to do anything that would inhibit. I mean, we have people that come in here with businesses that don't bother to pay any of the fees that are already required, let alone to have a potential project come in that would be between us and the Maricopa County Island, who doesn't have that fee, but they can buy the land for the same amount of money, build the same project west of Meridian. I would hate to see something like that shoot us out of the ballpark.
One other item I might add on this subject as we think about arts, I know that's a goal for all of us. One area that might be a benefit at the League of Cities and Towns Conference, I've made note and made an idea that I'm gonna be asking other city managers and other places, and maybe as we go to the League of Cities and Towns, let's ask like how all the other cities, I know y'all talked to a lot of different And I know that Vice Mayor did take a tour or learned a little bit about Oro Valley in particular, because I think the Oro Valley one is I don't know if very many cities are doing that, but there are other ways that cities have councils and work together with the community to get dollars in, either through volunteers or through other means too. And so I would encourage all of us to keep researching it that way too as well.
So in a situation like this, we can just make no motion at all and just move on if I don't hear a motion in the next few seconds.
They can just move on, right?
Well, if no motion's made, then it doesn't go anywhere.
Yes.
But we can still ask this, the
Yeah.
schools.
Research it.
Among ourselves, we have the authority to talk to the students and whatever. So it could come back when we gain more knowledge. So I think it was a good thing that we did discuss it and gave us more options and to know what's out there in the rest of the country and the state. So I'm not seeing a motion, so I'm going to move on. Council direction to staff on establishing a term limit for the mayor position as discussed at the April 2nd, 2018 council work session. Bryant, your name is on this again. Even
Your Honor,
though
at the last council meeting, you had asked us to do a little bit of research and to have a discussion on, actually the last three are all kind of interrelated in terms of some information for term limits for council, term limits for the mayor, and then the length of the term in particular for the mayor. So from a staff perspective, we're here to answer any questions as it may relate to costs associated with the change like this, or how it would work for elections or for future city councils. And very similar to the prior item, this is in the arena of, from our perspective, we will follow what direction y'all want to go.
So we might as well meld these, all three of these together if anybody wants to discuss them.
Was there 91 cities?
That is correct.
Because there was discussion last time about, I think the term was that the majority of the cities have these term limits, which clearly with this sheet of paper,
Negates.
there are 42 of the cities, the mayor has 2-year terms. Only 12 of the cities have term limits for mayor, and 11 cities have term limits for council. So clearly the majority of cities in Arizona operate the same way we do. And I will stand by my other comment that if it's not broke, I don't think we should fix it.
I thought something was interesting when I was looking at the Winslow. The mayor has 4 term limits, and of course they're 2 years apiece, and the council members have just 2.
But they're 4 years apiece,
Yeah.
so they're 8 years each.
Right, they're both the same, but I mean, it's just the weird.
Well, and even the fact that Casa Grande limits the mayor, but not the council, you know.
It is interesting, yeah.
So I just want to throw out there that we do have the election season coming up, and I plan on seeking one more term, and then win or lose, I will step away. So any decision that I would make here would not affect anything that I'm going to be doing. But just, I've seen the mayors over the year, it's just a pain in the butt to have to, you're 1 year into it and you're already thinking about running again. So I think it would be a relief to whoever is the mayor to know that they have 4 years and not have to worry about it, so that you're not making decisions regarding, I'm sorry, what?
Why are you thinking about it a year into the term, for goodness sakes? Seems to me
Because
that you would
it's-
be thinking about it like year and a half into the term at least,
Yeah, a year and
maybe
a half.
even
Yeah.
longer.
But a year and a half is not very long when council gets a full 3 years, 3.5 years before they have to. I'm just throwing that out there.
Well, the legislatures work on 2-year terms, correct?
Yes.
You know, and the numbers on the 91 cities and towns, we were 40, out of 91, 42 had 2-year terms. So it's not a definitive.
50.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a definitive, we're in amongst a group of 10 cities or less that do it this way. It is about, it's a little bit less than 50% have 2-year terms, but it's still pretty close. in order to change something, the cost to the city, because this was a voted-in term length. Is that correct, Kathy?
Yes.
On the mayor's
It
term.
was approved.
And just
There was a
so,
vote.
and for clarification, just so you, Kathy, you can answer this one. In order for this, if we decided to do something and bring it forward to to the citizens to vote, it would have to be, obviously too late for the 2018 election, so it would have to be the 2020 election, if that's the case?
Well, we've not done any research because we've not been given direction, but you might be able to put it on a special election ballot. But regardless, each one of these items requires a vote of the people. And we're talking in the, I'm going to guess roughly based upon our 2016 elections, in the area of $25,000.
In addition to just having a right, I mean, because we have a council election anyway that year and stuff, so it would be in
Correct,
addition
but
to it?
these questions are considered propositions, so you would have to allow for yes and no
Yeah.
ballot arguments. They would have to be put in the booklet along with whatever ordinance you adopted, and all of that voting material would have to be done in both Spanish and English.
So not only is the mayor's length of term voted by the public, but so are term limits?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And I have a feeling I know how that vote would go, but do we want to do the effort of putting it on there?
Aaron, I think personally that we have very intelligent voters out there, and they make a decision as to whether you're limited in your terms or not. We're a council manager form of government, which means that the mayor is simply a council person. The mayor does not have, cannot create policy by him or herself, cannot do anything by him or herself in reality, according to the way we're set up, unless they have 3 council members, at which point they have a quorum. And one of the reasons that was given when this was voted on originally was that if a mayor and 3 council seats were available in the same election, that it opened the door to the possibility of 4 people now running the council, running the city for the next 4 years, with the other 3 being obsolete. That was one of the things that people talked about. I've seen it actually
So this
happen with
one-
2-year elections. I've seen that happen, but the people were smart enough to get the mayor out on the next cycle.
So you're saying that at any given point, every 2 years, this community has the ability
They
to
have the
vote?
ability to vote and determine whether they feel like the leadership that they have is what they want.
Whether there's term limits or not, or, yeah.
I mean, they've already limited your term. If they vote no, if you don't make the cut on the voting, you're out. You know, so the term is already stopped at that point.
But you could also have 4 council members that could dominate the other 2 or 3
But they're
also.
not all elected at the same time.
Right.
There's only 3 council members elected at the same time.
So every 2 years, you could correct a bad situation.
Mm-hmm.
That's,
Yeah, one of the arguments for term limits is if you have a bad representative, senator, or whoever it happens to be, you get them out of there then when they're term limited. But you also get rid of good people. There are people, actually there are fairly nice politicians out there somewhere. And more at the local level, I might add, that, you know, if you get somebody who is very good, then you limit that person as a benefit to the city. So.
And what I see our peers from other cities doing is moving on to other positions in theirs. So, but I've been asked to look into this many times in my 10 years on council, which is why I've brought it up. Joel, Kathy, have we discussed these 3 together, or do we have to do a motion on each one?
Well, if you're going to if you want to go and ask for a motion on each one, then you can.
And in the same situation as the last one, if there's no motion, then we just pass it over.
Yes, if there's no motion on any of these, you can pass them over also.
So on the first one, which is the 14,
14?
do we have a motion on direction of staff on term limit for mayor position? And I'm hearing none. Moving on to 15. Do we have a motion on council direction to staff or term limits for council members? I'm hearing none there either. Then on number 16, do we have a motion on council direction to staff on changing the length of term for the mayor position to 4 years from 2 years?
I'll also make that motion to move from the following direction be given to staff regarding the changing the length of the term for the mayor position from 4 years, or to 2 years from to 4 years from 2 years.
Do we have a second? And I will second that. Roll call.
Councilmember Struble?
Can I ask a question before I vote, or has that already been closed?
Yeah.
So is this just direction to staff to look into the issue,
Yes.
correct? That doesn't hurt to look into it, yes.
And it would be several years out before anything like this came to, yeah.
I'm not sure that's the case. Councilmember Evans?
I think that we have so many important issues to deal with that we assign to our staff already, that I don't think this should be a priority, so no.
Vice Mayor Wilson?
Yes?
Councilmember Waldron?
No.
Councilmember Barker?
No.
Mayor Surtee?
Yes.
3 in favor, 3 opposed. It's a tie vote, the motion fails, Your Honor.
Okay. So, number 17, selection of date, time, and location for budget work session, public hearing and adoption of tentative and final budget for fiscal year 18-19. Bryant?
Thank you, Your Honor. Last night, Matt, we went through the budget items and set the dates. If you're agreeable to those dates, Matt's pulling up the dates for the budget. We have state mandated dates that are public hearings. Prior to those, we will have several public meetings that will be work sessions in which we will work through the budget. And the budget schedule, I think the first meeting was April 30th, I'm going by memory, and May 14th. So that would be our recommendation for budget, to follow the budget
Any-
schedule, April 30th with the May 14th.
Any discussion?
Your Honor?
Yes.
I thought when we did the water board that there.
There's the next night.
Yes.
There's the
Right,
Tuesday
right,
night.
no, and, yeah, I understand that. But one of theirs was, oh, never mind, I said April 30th, okay, we're good.
Yeah, that's it.
And we're already making plans to have meetings to discuss.
That is correct,
Yeah.
yep.
If no more discussion, I'll call for a motion.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I move that the budget work session be held at 7 PM on April 30th in the city council chambers, that a public hearing and adoption of the tentative budget be held at 7 PM on May 14th in the city council chambers, that a public hearing and adoption of the final budget be held at 7 PM on June 18th in the city council chambers.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Waldron?
Yes.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Councilmember Struble?
Yes.
Councilmember Barker?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wilson?
Yes?
Mayor Surtee?
Yes.
Unanimous, Your Honor.
We have a motion on the next regular meetings.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I move that an executive session at 6 PM and a work session at 7 PM be held on Monday, April 30th, 2018, in the City Council Conference Room and City Council Chambers respectively, and then executive session at 6 p.m. be held on Tuesday, May 1st, 2018, in the City Council Conference Room.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Councilmember Barker?
Yes.
Councilmember Waldron?
Yes.
Councilmember Struble?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wilson?
Yes.
Mayor Surtee?
Yes.
Unanimous, Your Honor.
This is the time for the public to express request communications, comments, and suggestions. Each speaker must have already filled out a request to speak form and handed it to the city clerk before the end of the city manager's report. All issues shall be presented in a professional manner without personal attacks. Under the open meeting law and the council cannot engage in discussion on the issues presented, but may respond to criticism and may direct staff or follow up with the speaker directly and/or place this matter on a future agenda for council discussion. There's a 3-minute time limit for each speaker, and I have Carrie Mortensen. And we'll need your address too.
I'm Carrie Mortensen, 21503 East Escalante Road, Queen Creek. Thank you, Mayor and City Council members, for allowing me to address you this evening. I am Carrie Mortensen, a 4th grade teacher at Four Peaks Elementary School. I'm here tonight in representation of our Apache Junction educators, including all our support staff, for the Red for Ed grassroots movement to restore funding to our schools. Our district has been hit extremely hard over the last couple decades with the decrease in funding from the state level. We have had 3 schools closed since 2011, along with going to a 4-day school week as we struggled to fund our schools. Our schools are still funded on a 35-year-old legislative formula, which places that back to 1983. By 2019, over $2 million will be diverted to private schools through vouchers, which leaves less funding for public school students and educators, with greater needs and gaps building in the classrooms. The educators are buying and creating their own updated material and supplies to help ensure the students are competitive in neighboring districts, with neighboring districts and competitive statewide. We have had to ask the parents to bring in greater and greater back-to-school supplies. It is difficult as a teacher to ask a parent who lives on government assistance to provide what their child needs and more. The state is not providing its students with an equitable education and denying its public education students the rights they are afforded according to the Arizona Constitution, by which a free school shall be provided and maintained. Continually diverting funds to vouchers for private schools has been detrimental to our district in the education funding our students. Since 2008, Arizona has cut $1.5 billion in school funding. We are still missing $1.1 billion. Let's all think about that for a moment. $1.1 billion missing in school funding. Since 2009, Arizona has lost $4.56 billion in public funding. The numbers are staggering. We ask you, Mayor and Council members, to support our fight for greater funding for our schools. We don't want this to happen to our schools. We're very passionate about them. Our students deserve a better future and the opportunity to have a properly funded education. As educators, we always put our students first, but unfortunately, the state of Arizona thinks it's okay they are last. Please join a walk-in at one of the Apache Junction schools on Wednesdays or wear red. Public education has been oppressed long enough. Thank you.
George Schroeder.
So all that money you're looking for, it's tied up.
We have your name and address.
George Schroeder, 2444 West Virginia Street. All of that money she's looking for, our trust land commissioner has told us that 123 was never about money for the schools. That was a complete disgrace on her part, and she will be reprimanded for that in an appropriate area. 2, if you don't want people looking at pot in your kids, don't say yes to drug dispensaries in our city. Simple as that, no brainer. We have rights, and I'm telling you, and I've told you before, I will never, ever be forced to live next to a drug addict by court order or HUD or federal government or any other entity on this planet. Make no mistake about it, it's never going to happen. So Mr. Patel needs to look for other direction for these homeless people and their needs. Okay, I was glad to see Mr. Powell at the SALT meeting. Miss Pam Culp, I believe, was the speaker. She gave us fair warning. She gave us the maps. It's called Superstition Vistas. It incorporates all the public trust land that they can get their greedy hands on. And guess what? All the BLM land from here to Superior, right up against the mountain. They're giving us fair warning, okay? They're going to take it all. They're going to build homes out there, and we're not going to have anything to see about it. Now, I've already been told by a good authority that it's probably never going to happen. But this is the goal that they're working for. Now, we need to be making better roads with Gold Canyon, not have a headline that says, leave us alone. I am such a person. I lived out there. I know people out there. I can change their opinions. But they got to have a reason why. Okay? We need to put businesses out there that incorporate us. Friendly businesses that both of us can work off of each other. They're not better than us. They don't want to be part of us, but there's reasons why. And because we have a city that is getting us into a situation where we have to say, yes, 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 to MAG, to SAG, to WAG, and all these other intergovernmental agencies. I'm telling you, you need to stop. It is not in our best interest. Once they got what they got, then who are you? That's how it's going to go. So I'm giving, they're giving us fair warning. They're going to take all that BLM land and put houses on it, and we're not going to have nothing to say about it. So, thank you.
Would anyone care to respond? With none, then I will adjourn the meeting.